there's some good stuff that's come out of people switching over to carnivore. So one of the first things that comes to mind for me is they're reporting right away they're losing weight, and that's generally coming in the form of body fat. And I think there's some key components there, so I want to talk about that, right? Like what's happening, right, when you move to a carnivore diet and you're shifting, like making a hard shift into something that you weren't doing before. And specifically, if you're moving to carnivore, you're likely not onboarding a lot of other things. Those things would be things like processed food, additional starches, and let's just call it what it is. It's additional calories.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big part of it when you're looking to lose fat. Obviously, moving into a calorie deficit is one of those things that I think people find themselves moving into. So why is that happening, right? Well, you could easily, let's say your maintenance calories is 3,000 calories a day. You could easily eat 3,000 calories of animal protein that also contains a significant amount of fat and hit that 3,000. Mm-hmm. But if you're monitoring that a little bit more, if you were eating over that, or if your macros were kind of upside down in a sense, the onboarding all that protein also provides you, likely now you're hitting your protein needs, which are critical for fat loss, muscle maintenance, and even gaining muscle. So if you're on top of this, adding on to an exercise program, which people often do, it's like, now I'm eating better, I should go out and exercise. They're kind of getting multiple benefits there by increasing their protein, decreasing their caloric intake, and then increasing their caloric expenditure by also sending that stimulus, if they're lifting weights, to build in or maintain muscle mass. That's all good stuff, when I look at it. But I think there's some other parts that come along with that.
Well, I think kind of the direction we're heading here is, you had mentioned, what are they no longer onboarding? Now, if they've made this hard shift towards a carnivore diet, and this can happen on the flip side of the spectrum with a plant-based diet. And a lot of people, the first month they switch to a plant-based diet, they report all of this, these anecdotal benefits, that they have better energy, their skin clears up, better mental clarity, appetite is stabilized, and people will literally report the same benefits from a carnivore diet. And the way I view a carnivore diet, at least as it stands today, is a potentially effective elimination diet. Mm-hmm. And that is what is the benefits that people may be seeing immediately are not necessarily because they have increased meat per se, maybe because they're increasing protein intake, like you mentioned, but they're no longer eating, like you said, the processed starches, all this other BS that they were eating. So those immediate benefits may just be that you're cleaning up your diet by going this sort of restrictive route. You're restricting all this BS that you were eating before. Also, protein tends to be a little bit more satiating. So yes, if you're choosing higher fat cuts of meat, it may be easy to pile up calories, but most people, protein makes them full. So they end up eating maybe a little bit less than if their diet was skewed more in favor of carbohydrates.
Yeah, let's be honest about this too. I mean, animal protein is delicious, right? So, you're encouraged to eat more of it, but you make a good point there about it being more satiating. So you have this sense of fullness. You're shutting down that hunger signal a little bit more. So again, that could lead you a little bit closer to or into that caloric deficit if that's where you need to be. There's a flip side of that too. If you're already severely under eating, right? And when I say severely, that's a broad statement. But if you're under eating your caloric maintenance and or you've been in a deficit for a good long time and now you're moving into this could dig you into a little bit of a deeper hole. But that doesn't discount the anecdotal kind of results that people are seeing, because yes, you're moving maybe further into a caloric deficit, and you're meeting your protein needs, and your gut biome's maybe being cleaned up a little bit, and you're feeling a little bit better, got a little bit better energy, and that is quote unquote good, right? And you're seeing a physical result, and you're feeling like a physiological result from doing this, and that's kind of a slippery slope if you're not starting from a solid platform.
Well, and I like what you mentioned about how it's kind of like a more modern day like elimination diet, because a lot of these things that people are feeling could be very specific foods or types of foods that they have a negative response to. Like a super common one is maybe they're gluten intolerant and they had no idea until they got rid of all the gluten in their diet. So maybe some of the benefits they're feeling, like you said, is just even from that. Or there's even there's some vegetables that some people are like a common like group is like nightshades that some people have issues with.
FODMAPs is foods that contain
like
those.
Garlic,
exactly.
those types of things.
So so like
bloating.
Exactly. Yeah. So like eliminating that stuff. It's like addition by subtraction as far as like they're thinking it's just the carnivore aspect, but eliminating those things are allowing them to see the benefits, which there's other kinds of diets where you can kind of eliminate and then kind of reintroduce to see what is actually affecting
what actually
things.
was triggering you. Yeah, it may not be all plants, it may be specific plants that don't necessarily agree with you. And I think there is some individuality there, because if you read comments on social media, anytime there is a post about that's sort of bashing carnivore or is kind of poo-pooing carnivore, you have 600 comments below like, well, I started doing it and I feel amazing. I lost 20 pounds.
Great.
I feel the best I've ever felt.
Great.
I stopped eating, I used to be a vegan and now I'm a carnivore and I feel way better. That type of subjective feedback is very powerful and it gets people to buy in, but the reason for that buy-in may not be what they think it is, as far as, it may just be that like broccoli doesn't agree with you or whatever, and you were eating that regularly and you just generalized it to plants are bad for me.
Yeah, so let's take out the anecdotal stuff for a second and let's look at some of the things like metabolically, like a carnivore diet could solve for somebody if their goals are weight loss, increase or maintenance of muscle mass, those kind of things. So one of the things that I think is important to talk about, and this one's probably going to be hard to argue, and I think scientifically it's probably been shown over and over again, is that when people move to this type of a diet, their insulin sensitivity increases. And at the same time, again, if we go back to caloric deficits and hitting our protein needs, the weight loss begins, right? And so again, weight loss equals good. This is working for most people. And what are we losing in terms of weight? Hopefully we're losing body fat. But on the insulin side of things, if we look at insulin, and insulin's that hormone that shuttles things to where they need to go. Whether you're eating protein, fat, or carbohydrate, it's imperative, and you're going to get an insulin response from any of that, or you should be. But as people have maybe been subscribing to or eating a less healthy diet that maybe consists more of carbohydrates, particularly like processed carbohydrate or maybe high in sugar. Sugar, for the record, is not bad. It's the amount and what your current condition is and what goals you're trying to achieve that can equal whether it's good or bad for you or not. And I say that like in a broad sense, but if your body's your blood sugar, let's call it that, is constantly high and your body is constantly trying to downregulate that through insulin, through the actions of glucagon and insulin. Won't get into the other one here, but your body could become insulin insensitive, right? And so it doesn't respond the same. And so that blood sugar stays higher more frequently, and the body doesn't know what to do with that or can't process it. So ideally what we're doing is we're processing like those carbohydrates, and they're being stored then in muscle mass or in your muscle for energy. And if it can't process that, right, then what it will ultimately get stored as is fat, right? And gets stored in adipose tissue. And so if you eliminate those carbohydrates or those sugars coming into your diet, and again, say you're on this side of insulin sensitivity, maybe you're even pre-diabetic or diabetic, this could be a real advantage for you in helping you to become more insulin sensitive, because you are reducing the amount of carbohydrate/sugar that you're putting into your system. That can be very beneficial for somebody that has an issue with insulin sensitivity. At the same time, again, eating the protein and meeting your protein needs, you could be getting a very good effect there. And the other thing that happens with this is if you are over fat or overweight, understand that is generally going to impact your insulin sensitivities, particularly if you have a high amount of visceral fat. That's that fat that's stored around like your organs. So that's the stuff on the inside, not necessarily the subcutaneous fat on the outside. It's hard fat. It's around your kidneys. It's around your liver. It could be around your heart. Those kinds of things. If that level is high, your insulin sensitivity is likely going to be lower. It's not that way for everybody, but for the majority of people it is. So if we can start to increase insulin sensitivity and start to decrease visceral fat, metabolically, we're going to be more efficient at burning fat.